Hello and welcome to Bust and Beyond with your host, Robin Hayhurst. In this podcast, Robin will share his personal journey and experiences from his businesses and help you to learn from failure. You'll learn tips, tricks, and how to see things from a new perspective. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Robin Hayhurst.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bust and Beyond podcast. I'm Robin Hayhurst, and I'm here today with Layton Barr, a business coach who is a profit coach, and his business is called Inspiration X. Hello, Layton.
Yeah, good day, Robin. Thank you for inviting me to come on board today.
Well, thank you for coming and spending the time with us. So, Layton, let's start at the very beginning with you, and just how did you get into business, and kind of how did you start off your life?
So, there is a very, very long version of this, but we'll go for the short one, shall we? Basically, at the age of 8 years old, I blew up my mum's and dad's television set. And that got hooked on fixing, why did that happen? And then that was it. I started fixing things, friends and family television sets, from a very early age, right the way up to leaving school. When I left school, I left with no qualifications. So getting into the TV and video repairs is all I've ever wanted to do, and I wasn't able to do it. I ended up working voluntarily at a TV and video repair shop, and I ended up fixing satellite television systems on the ships up in Hull, Filipino, North Sea ferries. Everything I did was self-taught. Then I continued learning how to fix TV systems, distribution, audiovisual entertainment systems, and then it just progressed from there. Whilst I was doing this, I was employed by a company. And like most people within the organizations, you tend to fall out with the bosses. You think I can do a better job than this. And lo and behold, after being with the company for 4.5 years, that's exactly what I did. I left and I set up with a business partner, and I went down the route of working in a partnership with a business partner, doing exactly the same thing, which was marine electronics on a ship. So that's literally how I got started. That's a very, very short version of how I got started.
Layton, I know you've run a few businesses. So what was your first business?
So the first one was in marine electronics with a business partner. And I was 21, 22 years old, I think, or something like that. Can't remember off the top of me. But yeah, that was my first business with a business partner. And the idea was we was doing marine electronics on ships. The partnership arrangement was that he would do the business setup and I would go out and do the works. However, as the business progressed, I was doing more of the works in the business as opposed to him being in a partnership with me. And within 18 months, the partnership failed, basically. He screwed me over for some considerable amount of money at that time, which ended up leading to losing the house. I literally lost the house, the cars, the toys, and I did all that 5 days before Christmas in 2005, I believe it was. So yeah, I literally lost everything. The only thing I kept was the wife and the kids at the time. And from that point moving forward, I realized that it's not about having the assets and the toys and the drive for the watches and that. It really was to keep my family together. That was all I was interested in. So when I restructured myself, I vowed never to have a business partner again. And I continued within the marine electronics industry to get back into the industry. After the partnership failed, I ended up doing satellite television, domestic aerial installations on top of houses in Hull. That's where I'm from, Hull and East Riding over in England, Yorkshire. And I was fitting television aerials, and my friend said to me, look, do you want to go for a holiday? And I went, I can't afford it. I can't afford this. And he said, we're going to stay at the YMCA. We're going to go up to Scotland, stay in the YMCA. Don't worry about it. A couple of £100, I'll pay for it. So I went, obviously, and we stayed at the YMCA. And I was halfway up Ben Nevis. And I thought, do you know what? I'm sick and tired of fitting satellite TV systems. I was sick and tired of doing aerials on houses. How the hell am I going to get out of this? And then what I did was I realized that, do you know what? It was my eureka moment. I was halfway at Ben Nevis, I had my eureka moment, and decided I was going to get in touch with the manufacturer of these satellite TV systems based down in Southampton at the time called Seatel. I came back home, obviously. I rang up Seatel and I said, have you got any jobs available? And I spoke to the director and she said, when would you like to start? And I said, 2 months' time. So they gave me 2 months to get my things together. And then I literally, for my aerial and satellite TV van I actually sold that, got £1,500. I bought a cheap car and a cheap caravan, and over a weekend fitted a tow bar and then drove down, and I started work on the Monday morning after literally spending 4 or 5 days getting the money together to buy the caravan. And then I ended up spending 2 months living down in Southampton at my caravan while my family remained up in Hull. And that was me getting back into the marine industry. That's how I did it. And then after being there for 6 months, we come to a mutual agreement that I couldn't work there any longer, basically. Once you become your own boss and you know what works and what doesn't work, other people can't tell you what to do. It's as simple as that. You know where things are going wrong. You can make suggestions. People don't listen, but in the end, there's going to be a conflict, and that's exactly what happened. So in the end, I left these guys, Cetel, and I ended up subcontracting to Cetel. It was a bit of a strange situation. But then building up my knowledge and experience, I continued subcontracting to businesses. I'd gone from a one-man band again to a limited company, and then built up my business doing marine electronics, and that's how it progressed again. But this time around, I did just enough work to pay for my lifestyle. So whereas most people bring in 40, 50, 60,000 pounds a year, I was doing that over the year, but I was only doing maybe 3-4 months work in total. So I spent more time with my family than I did actually go away to do the job. And that's what I realized I wanted to do after the first massive failure I had.
What would you have done differently, or what would you do differently now when dealing with a partner to stop that from happening again?
So in answer to your question, Robin, what would I have done differently? Because of the mistake I made the last 15 years not having a business partner, this time around, I found a business partner that was opposite to what I did. I looked at my strengths and weaknesses, looked at someone else's strengths and weaknesses, and got into a partnership with the other person that could complement my weaknesses, basically. That's what I was after. That worked fine. Within less than 3 years, as I said, business changed massively. Having a business partner is like having a partner in a relationship. You've got to trust them. It's as simple as that. And once you build trust within a relationship, you can accomplish lots of things. As long as you've got the same goals, same drive, same desire, trust is there, you can basically push through any boundaries, to be honest with you. That's what I've learned. That's definitely what I learned.
I think trust is really important. From my experience with partners, and I've had kind of partners in business that actually worked for me, but they've been quite an integral part of the business, is accountability and actually defining your roles, because it's not really, really clear set and you've got overlap. The overlap, I believe, is where the friction starts. And also you need to know and trust each other that you are doing your own job properly, because you can't be looking over each other's shoulders all the time. It's a waste of time. So a good comparison to that is the SAS go out into a field, they work as a group of 4, they have to watch a sector. That's what they're doing. If they're watching their mate's sector because they're not sure that he's doing his job properly, someone's going to get killed. Same with business, apart from the death bit, but it might be the death of the business. If you having to look at the other, sectors because you don't trust the person that's doing it to do the job really well, then I think that can be a problem. So I think, it's a big learning thing.
I agree on that. So first time around I had my business partner, it went wrong because we didn't look for the complement of each other. It's as simple as that. What he brought to the table wasn't what I expected. So that partnership failed. It's simple as that. The second time, 15 years later, and I got a partnership. This partnership started to work well. Don't get me wrong, really nice guy. Everything seemed to fit in place perfectly. But then over the last 6 or 7 months of the partnership, alarm bells started flagging up. Certain little things just didn't seem right. Something wasn't right. And when you're delving into asking questions, and the trust started to get ebbed away. And as soon as the trust went, I actually decided, this partnership is no longer for me. So actually, although 15 years later I got a partner, the partnership, that one failed as well.
So would you say, Layton, then, with your new partner, that your core values are aligned?
No, definitely not.
Your core values aren't aligned?
No. So with my recent partner, we're no longer in partnership.
Okay.
So this is being recorded, we're in October 2022.
Yeah.
So my partnership started in 2019 and everything was going great right the way up till November of 2021, when there were certain little red flags that started getting flashed up that started ebbing away at the trust. And I'm asking for information. The information wasn't forthcoming. I was asking for more information. It wasn't forthcoming. When we actually started the relationship, we both set goals to say, this is what the partnership's going to be. So we actually had an alignment at the very beginning. The business was working with property. We're doing property investing. So we're looking to invest in properties to benefit our children in the future. So we both had the same alignment on that front. I'm in a position where I can go out and find the properties. I'm in a position where I can manage the properties. He's in a position where he can assist in the management and also do the investment side of it. So we actually had a perfect alignment. He's very good at numbers, getting right into the nitty gritty, not something I'm really interested in. And as time went on with the partnership, like I say, certain things, although it started off being aligned, and for the first 2 years, the alignment was perfect. As we got to November of last year, something just wasn't right. And that's where the trust started ebbing. And once you've lost the trust, the partnership's over and done with. And it's the same in any relationship, whether business relationship, personal relationship. So the alignment was there at the beginning. As time went on, no, it failed, unfortunately.
Okay, so you had a basic difference in core values.
Correct.
Which you hadn't picked up. As I explained to you earlier, core values I find are really important to me.
Yeah, mine are too.
And that's the strange thing, is that in business you go, there's something to put on your website, there's something for your client, they're outward facing. But honestly, if I'd had a really strong set of core values written down, understood them and their use when I was running my company, then it would have been a different outcome. And I would have employed all the right people and it would have been different. I'm not saying all the right people, you always make mistakes, whatever you do, but
the word there is hindsight.
Hindsight's fantastic, isn't it?
So again, we mentioned at the beginning of this, I've had a number of businesses, and it's true. It's not like I've started a business, shut it down, started again just to avoid the tax man. It's not like that at all. Going back to 2011, I actually had a business coach, and we actually aligned to grow the business, to make it worth something, to invest in property. That was the goal. So as that business started growing and growing and growing, I got the premises, I took on the employees. Unfortunately, again, I didn't vet the employees correctly at the time, and they ended up sabotaging the business internally, which I didn't realize until that was a business that I'd spent eight years growing, and that came crashing down. That was a hurtful one. That really did hurt me. The first partnership, I lost everything. At the time, it was difficult for my wife and the children. The second time, I'd spent 8 years of my life growing this business, only for it to come crashing down within 6 months. That really hurt me. And to be honest with you, in 2017, I was actually depressed, but I didn't realize this until 2018 came up. And the reason I was depressed in 2017, you've spent 8 years of your life growing something for your children, in effect. That's what you was doing it for. It's all come crashing down. And at the same time, personal things hit me. Very close friends. One had a motorcycle accident and was told they was going to switch the machine off. Another very close friend, he had multiple heart attacks, and both of these lads were in their early 40s. And I was left thinking, what's the point in this working life when you work so hard and it's just taken away from you in an instant like that? So 2017 for me was really, really hard. All the other failures I've had in business, it was a learning curve. They were learning curves. But this was a massive learning curve. Like I say, it hurt. It hurt, really hurt.
I totally get that. I mean, I think when our company went bust, first of all, I felt like it's a huge failure. My father had started the company in 1969. So, it was a really big thing for me. I think the only reason I got out of bed in the morning was I had 2 dogs and they needed walking. I mean, they actually saved me, I think. And I was definitely depressed. I mean, there's no question about it. But onlookers always see a kind of, you just bounce back.
No, it's not true.
Yeah, it's absolutely not true. And they think, well, it's a Phoenix situation. He's closed it down for, And there's loads of, not loads actually. That's something that goes wrong as well. There was a couple of people that were saying unkind things about the way we'd done it and that we'd done it on purpose, but really it was a minority. But they're a loud minority, So you focus on that because that's what you hear. So, it was very difficult. So what did you do? What do you think was the pivotal point that you kind of came out of that?
2017, 2018. So that's when it was bad for me. 2017 was literally written off. I was out of the system. 2018, I had to get myself motivated. We were living in the big fancy house. We had the cars again. We had the toys again. We've got that lifestyle again. And we got into financial difficulties when the business came crashing down. So we had to downsize. In doing the downsizing, I evaluated how we were spending our money. That was the main thing, how we were spending our money and how we're living. And what got me motivated was I got my laptop out and I thought, I had a business coach all these years ago. What do I need to do to get motivated? So I read the email and it was literally, hi, Simon, and a hi, Layton. Hi, Layton. It was nice meeting you. Hopefully we work together. Look forward to working together in the future. And my response is, hi, Simon, I'm sick and tired of the marine industry. I want to invest in property. So at the time, you got to realize I got no money. I got very, very bad credit. And I was the benefits this time. So the motivation was, well, how am I going to invest in property when people say you need money? And that was my drive. I then said, right, I've now got something I need to accomplish. Let's do this, because I love challenges like that. I love finding problems. I love finding problems and resolving problems. That's what I did there. So that was sort of the instigator to let's get drive on this. And to actually get me pushed forward is my wife was behind me. She literally was behind me. And she said, well, you can do this. You can do this. All you need to do is just do research on YouTube. And that's exactly what I did. Started researching YouTube, started networking with people, and gradually I pulled myself back out the gutter again. And within 3 years, everything had changed. Massively, everything had changed. So it wasn't an overnight success the second time, third time around. It wasn't an overnight success. It really was you've got to drag yourself out of that gutter. Really have to drag that yourself out of the gutter. And what sparked it for me was, as you know, Robin, you're a coach yourself. With your security and your freedom and your wealth, when you're actually looking at your finances, I calculated that with the amount of money in finances, that if I actually stopped working today, I would only be able to survive by putting a roof over my family's head 21 days. And that made me sit up and realize that, do you know what? So something has to change massively. And that's what the driving force was basically for me at that point.
So it was a basic need of security.
Yeah, it was my children. It was everything I do is for my family, like I say. And at that time, if I'd stopped working for no reason, would have lost everything again.
I mean, Maslow's triangle, the kind of the basic need is a really kind of powerful thing. Not all of us can be Richard Bransons and, want to just improve ourselves.
That's true. But they say they have failures. I actually wonder how many of these type of failures these guys have actually had, to be honest with you. I wonder if they've actually been right at the bowels of failure. Like yourself, like I and you have, Robin, and had to drag yourself out. I don't think they've been down that route.
I actually think they have. I disagree with you, because I know that Richard Branson had a few failures. Henry Ford, very, very famous example. He went bust twice before he started Ford's. Ford's did rather well. I think people have had big failures. If you look at Richard Branson, how much he's had to put himself out there to back his airline at the moment, which I'm sure is his biggest baby. I mean, he had to get rid of his music industry to do that as well. And I think he's now mortgaged Necker Island. So, we have different levels of security. I'm sure he's got enough money to put a roof over his head. But, at the same time, it must be quite difficult for him in stages. And I think people do go bust. And I'm hoping one day to have someone, famous on here that's gone bust and talk about it.
You're speaking to him.
I am. So, but it's a really, really interesting area. So quite important. What do you do now then? And why did you pivot into what you're doing?
So for me, everything's about my family. Simple as that, pure and simply. I started working with a business partner all them years ago to buy the toys, etc. That's what it was. The dream was make money, buy the toys, look after your family. And as things progressed, I realized it's not all about the money side of it. It's all about the time I spend with my children growing up. That's what it was for me. And at the time when we had that first failure, I only had 2 children. And as things progressed, we've got a total of 4 children. So things kept changing. So rather than me actually going to work, I ended up staying more at home with the family, up to a point where the youngest has got to an age where at that age she can look after herself. But then I realized that through all my life lessons, let's say, no one ever educates you on this. And I wanted my children to not follow the same path that I did. Like I say, I left school, no qualifications. My parents were telling me you needed to do well. I grew up in a council estate. It's easy enough for them to say do well, but really you're going to be able to do well when your dad is on the dole, and he's been on the dole for so long that you just don't want to be in that situation. So for my children, we set something up called Raising the Bar. And Raising the Bar was actually educating my children on finances. It's as simple as that. We educate them on basic finances, going through that Robert Kiyosaki, and following the money comes in, the money comes out, and trying to keep as much of the money in your pocket as possible. Assets and liabilities, basically. So we're educating our children on assets and liabilities. And we're just educating our children to do better. That's literally all it is. Try their best, and if they achieve what they achieve, they get it. If they don't, they don't. But at least they know that they can rely on their parents to actually help and support them. That's where Raising the Barr family motto came about. And then I thought, well, actually, through my businesses, so what I've done now is I'm a property investor. That changed because I actually dragged myself out of it. So property investing, hospitality, merger and acquisitions is something we're actually working on now, basically buying and selling businesses. But then I also became a business coach because I've got so much free time. I thought, well, I can help other business people avoid the pitfalls. If I'm helping the children, then I can just do the same thing with businesses. So that's literally what I did. So during the COVID period, when people were there, unfortunately, it was a tough time for most people during the COVID. I was actually financially secured because of the way I'd actually restructured my lifestyle. So we were fine. To be honest, we was actually fine through that. And I thought, well, if I can do this, how for myself and my family, how can I do it to help other people? So I actually went through a training course. I actually went through a training program to become a business coach. So Layton Barr, the businessman, ended up training to be Layton Barr, the business coach, so that Layton Barr, the coach, could end up training Layton Barr, the businessman, to fill in his gaps, because there's so many gaps that you have. Although you've done business for so long, there's so much you do not know that once you know it, you're like, wow, this is absolutely amazing. And that's what I did. So I thought, well, I can use this information to help other businesses. And that's exactly what I'm doing now.
I think you made a point there. You run a business, there is a lot of stuff you don't know. And I think the fantastic thing about you and I, because we're in the same situation in lots of ways, is that we can look at things and go, that would have really helped me. That is so powerful. And I know that's going to help my clients. Whereas there's so much information out there and there's so much rubbish that wouldn't help anybody. And you can spend time teaching that, but it doesn't mean that's going to give your clients any benefit. So to be able to pick out the things that really are the powerful bits that would have helped you, I think that's really important. I think that makes a big difference. Just want to go briefly back. It's kind of a little bit off subject, but it's about growing up in a council estate. I'm very lucky. I had a quite privileged upbringing. My father had started his business about 2 years after I was born. I went to private school and comprehensive school, so I kind of had a mixture. My private school actually was the kind of place, I hope I'm not insulting anyone here, but, you know, people used to send their kids to boarding school if they didn't want them. But I've kind of often thought about, you know, what's the difference between my upbringing and someone else's upbringing who perhaps has had a less privileged working class upbringing. I don't want to use the word working class, actually I don't like it, but anyway. And I think it's two things, because I think people say, well, hard work. I've seen some people work bloody hard and actually not get anywhere. I think it's believing in yourself is a big thing. And I think if you're surrounded by people that perhaps are happy with their lot, but they haven't got the drive to be a huge financial success or a business success or something like that, that's one big thing. I think the other thing that puts people at disadvantage is their network, because their network of people that are supporting them, you know, haven't done the things that perhaps they want to do. And I think I think it's as simple as that. You see some people come from that background, do so well, and lots of people don't, of course. So what was my benefit in my upbringing? Well, I was taught to believe in myself, which actually was a hard lesson because I don't think I ever did really. And I was taught that you could, you know, my father, he made his own company. He started off as a carpenter, so he did really well for himself. So I saw that as something. Going back on that, I have this theory that if you do better than your father, or you feel you've done better than your father, you feel you're a success. If your father's a huge success, that's a bit of a difficult one.
You've got a massive ladder to climb.
Yeah. So it's just a little theory I've got. But, you know, if he'd been a milkman, I'd be really successful now. So
here's a question for you, Robin, actually. What was your why? Why did you take on your dad's business and not do your own thing? And the reason I'm asking that is because I do actually support a lot of businesses like yourself, and they've inherited the businesses from their family members, and they seem to struggle thinking that they've got to do as their fathers did or their family members did. And Okay, there's a gentleman that I've been working with, and the gentleman inherited his father's business. It's from the granddad, his dad. He's got the business now, and he's basically packaging the business up to hand over to his son. And it's a case of, well, your son's 14 years old. Does your son actually want to take this on, or does your son actually want to do something different? So why did you take on your father's business?
That's a really good question. So it wasn't quite that simple. I always set out to start my own business. Ended up in the development industry, working for other people. Now, we've got a reasonably dysfunctional family because of the family business. Everyone fell out, so I won't go into too much detail. But I was asked to come back to the company to run my own company within it. But very soon after that, other members of the family left the business, leaving no one to run the whole business, which I then ended up running. To me, I'd made it. But I hadn't. I didn't have the vision my father had for the business. Really, really important. His passion for the business was amazing, and I couldn't really replicate that. And I didn't change it enough. I think looking back on it, I just thought my father was my mentor, my best mate, everything really to me. And I just thought, well, he's done this, he's grown this, he knows what he's doing, which he did, not taken away from that. But things change. The world changes. There was different models we could have followed. There was other things we were trying to do. And leading on to why I'm doing what I'm doing now, part of it was in 2005, I wanted to go out and find someone to help me. I wanted to go and find a mentor or a coach or something like that. I couldn't find someone with the kind of experience I needed, and ended up with a generic business coach. And it wasn't a good experience.
Yeah, I've done very similar thing. The first coach I got was great. It was a motivational coach. He got me motivated, focused on what I needed to achieve. But then you basically surpass them. When your knowledge increases, you end up surpassing that coach. And I've actually had, I believe, 5, maybe 6 coaches over the years. Some of them Simon lasted quite a while. Some of them lasted a couple of months. And the reason was because you're able to assess these people. Now you can understand that you do know better than them. That's basically what I found. But so finding the right person to actually work with is very difficult. And that's where we can come back to your alignment. You got to align with the people you're going to be working with.
You do.
And you got to have your core values, etc. And that's with anyone.
I think that's really, really true. And I think one thing, if anyone's listening to this and thinking about getting a coach or mentor, I mean, there's a slight difference in what they do. I do both. Sometimes I just have to tell people what to do, and sometimes I like them to find out for themselves. I think it's really important that they've actually run a business. If they haven't run their own business, whether they've succeeded or failed, because you learn from both, I still think it's really important. So if you're working with a coach or mentor that hasn't actually been in your shoes and understands, what it looks like, I think it's difficult for them to help you.
I'm going to agree with you on that front, but I'm a bit biased at the end of the day. I'm a business coach. So yeah, but I do get that. One of the reasons why I couldn't get on with the other coaches was they didn't have a business. They hadn't had a business in the first place. So how can you listen to someone trying to give you support and advice and how to grow your business when they hadn't actually achieved that success themselves? It just did not compute. It was a conflict of interest for me anyway.
And I think in my industry, the construction industry, the specific knowledge of the industry, which I feel is quite different to other industries, is quite important, and to be able to do a deep dive into someone's business, understanding the structure and what they do and all the jobs they do and everything else. I think a lot of other industries, lots of other businesses, they are very generic and they're the same, but construction is very different. So I remember having someone on the phone who was actually crying because they thought they were going bust. And they'd been working with a coach for 7 or 8 months. And it took me half an hour to work out exactly what he's doing wrong. I couldn't save him. I always regret that. I couldn't save him. But it took me half an hour to work out exactly the 3 things that he was doing wrong. And I don't think a coach outside of the industry would have done that in 4 or 5 months. And the proof is he'd been working with someone for 6 months and they hadn't spotted these 3 things. But to me, it was glaringly, it wasn't because I was super intelligent and fantastic, it was just glaringly obvious because I'm in the industry.
Hey, you've been there, you've done that. So when you're employing any trades to come and do a job in your house and they charge you the 150 quid call out charge and they're done within 30 seconds and disappear again, and then the clients are going, well, why the hell are they charged X amount of money. It's because of all the experience and the knowledge they've actually done to achieve to get to that point. The business I did work in the marine electronics, I ended up getting involved in the super yacht industry, one of the most exclusive industries to get into. I'm working on these massive multi-million pound super yachts, and I'm charging mega bucks, to do the work because I know the value I actually brought to the table at that time. As a coach, you want to help every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there. But to be honest with you, your time is so valuable that you can't help all them people. So you've got to be selective in the industry you want to work in. And like I said, if you do construction, I do electrical, technical. That's what I specialize in. They're the clients I'm actually helping. But wanting to help the smaller one-man band people, I'm going to start, like yourself, doing, I suppose, podcasts, etc., to just give them a little bit of advice and a little bit of help and support as and when you can. But it's not something that I'm going to spend doing 24/7. It's just something I want these little tidbits to be able to get people going in the first place.
Well, I think when I came into coaching and the marketing side, one of the things that people kept saying to me, don't give them the solutions, don't solve their problems, don't. And it's like, listen, if I'm here and you're listening to me now and I've solved one of your problems, that's brilliant, because it's taken me 35 years to learn everything I know. If I could impart that in 2 seconds, it'd be a miracle. I just want to try and help people. And, and I think that that's really important. And it's become a passion. I have discovered that my hobby is business, is running what I do. And when I sit down on a Saturday or Sunday and do a bit of work, a bit of catching up, it doesn't feel like work. It feels like I'm out playing golf or something.
One of the ways I looked at it was, let's say I'm not going to work today. If I don't do work today, does that mean being selfish? Because I could actually be helping someone within their business to actually achieve success just by me not having this meeting with them, conversation. I actually had a really good meeting with a gentleman yesterday. He can't afford me. But I do know that some of the tidbits that we actually discussed yesterday will help him in his business and move forward till we get to the point where he can actually afford me if he wants to work with me in the future. It's not a job.
It is a passion. It's a passion.
That's your why. You've got to do your why. Your why is, well, I go in the morning now to know if I don't. It's selfish. It's selfish, basically, in my mind. That's how I do it.
One of the nicest things that happens to me occasionally is I get someone on the phone or on Zoom and they go, oh, right, well, I've been following you for a year. We go, really? Okay. I've listened to you on this podcast and that podcast. I've put everything you said into action in my company, and it's made a huge difference. And I think, wow, that's amazing. I'm really happy about that.
That is amazing.
And really, genuinely, I'm really happy about it. They might never become a client. They might never pay me a penny. But that is a win.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. And that's why you're trying to, as I mentioned earlier, you want to support the masses. You can't support everyone, but doing these podcasts, workshops, etc., where people can get the information for free. Implementation, that's what we need to do. Taking action, implementation. Hearing that a year later is fantastic. Fantastic.
It is. It's amazing. Because, on LinkedIn, people just don't very rarely comment or like. So you just carry on plodding away. And obviously you get no feedback from podcasts. So, then if you listen to this, you want to give me a review, that'd be fantastic because I'll get some feedback. But that's brilliant. So just to round it off, 3 things that you would recommend from your experience, not from your coaching, that people should do in business to protect themselves from going out of business.
To protect themselves from going out of business?
Yeah, so to be successful and not go bust.
Number 1 is your why. You've got to know the reason why you're doing what it is you're doing. One of the reasons I failed, I lost my passion. I wasn't interested in the marine industry anymore. Simple as that. Purely and simple as that. Knowing your numbers. I'm going to say knowing your numbers is obviously a good one. Yes, you hand your accounts over to an accountant at the end of the year and hoping to save you some tax money. But in reality, you should be on your numbers every single week at least. 13-week forecast is what I now project. And that's what I'd work on. I get my clients to do the exact same thing. Give me 3 months in advance notice of something that may be on the horizon that you're going to have to overcome. That's a massive, massive. If you do come across failures, don't take them as being personal. Just take it on the chin as a learning curve. It's not personal, it is learning. Don't repeat the mistake. That's really what you do. Take it as a learning curve. Don't repeat it. Those are the 3 things I'm going for. Find your why.
Well, the sign of madness is to do the same thing and expect a different result.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. There's a lot going on about that. So when my company failed in 2016, it's like a load of dominoes had been lined up. It wasn't just one thing going on. It was a number of dominoes. And even taking one or two of them dominoes out, they still would have toppled over, because at the very beginning, that very first domino was me and my passion and my why. It wasn't there. It's what I wanted to achieve. So it was all going to come down. It was just, it was inevitable the business was going to fail. I just didn't know when it was going to fail. So the first thing is passion. Make sure you know the reason why you're doing something. Be very, very passionate about it. And if you're not passionate about the reason why you're doing it, you need to assess the reason behind it.
Well, that's brilliant, Layton. Thank you ever so much for your time. For those people listening, if you can indicate any way that you're enjoying these podcasts, it'd be really brilliant. Reviews, etc., always welcome. Or just contact me at robinhayhurst.com. That's my website address, so you can contact me on that. Thank you very much, Layton. Very much appreciated, and I think it's been quite a powerful episode.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks for listening to Bust and Beyond with Robin Hayhurst. Be sure to tune in next time and visit his website at robinhayhurst.com.